As we've been reporting, the U.S. unemployment rate held at 9.7% in February, and payrolls dropped by 36,000. Stocks climbed on the news this morning. But in a month with record snowstorms forcing some employers to temporarily close, are the markets really looking at the best employment indicator? Well, joining us now, Peter Boockvar, equity strategist with Miller Tabak. Great to see you, Peter. So your expert, scientific, analytical initial reaction to the jobs report in your note this morning was weather schmether. Do tell.
Well, it's interesting because the Bureau of Labor Statistics said we really have no idea how much of an impact weather had. They did quantify how many people didn't go to work because of it, but they also said even if you got paid for 1 hour over this survey period of 3 to 4 weeks, you're considered still employed. And in the household survey, if you didn't go to work because of weather, but you still have a job, you're still considered employed. So I don't think it had as much of an impact, or nearly as much of an impact, as a lot of people say. So the negative number was probably in line with expectations of pre-weather-like, and also in line with the ADP report and what we've seen in weekly jobless claims and the employment components of the ISM and the non-manufacturing numbers. So yes, there's a lot of excitement because it wasn't as bad as feared, because this whole weather thing put economists in a tizzy on how to calculate this.
So all in, what does the jobs report say about the labor recovery? How robust or weak is it, or does it continue to be? And then broaden that out to overall economic recovery.
Well, the pace of hiring clearly is shown had dramatic improvement, but the pace of hiring is still extremely selective. Manufacturing is beginning to grow again jobs-wise for the first time in years, and we're seeing some selective hiring in services, but there is no broad-based recovery in hiring yet, and that is, I think, clear in this number with or without any impact of snow. The broad economy, we're trying to heal. The global economy is trying to heal. We're slowly trying to dip our toe back in the water of growth. The question I have, though, is how bad are governments around the world going to screw that up, whether it's through monetary policy or fiscal policy?
Peter, might I ask, earlier today, our Margaret Brennan interviewed the Nobel Prize-winning economist Edmund Phelps. And Professor Phelps, he raised what I thought was a very salient point. This unemployment rate is still holding steady at 9.7%, but the underemployment rate is inching up near 17%. How concerned should we be about that?
It's very concerning. It went up today to 16.5%, and that is very concerning because that long-term unemployed, the longer people stay unemployed, it sort of feeds on itself because they lose skills, and it tells you that the economy is not generating enough broad job growth to bring these people back into the labor force. So It is a big concern, and I think it's unfortunately going to be somewhat long-lasting. I think in today's number, the average week of unemployment fell a touch, but it's still almost 30 weeks, which I think is a rather dramatic number.
And Peter, let me ask you, because we should mention, of course, you're an equity strategist, but talk to me about the psychology of that number. What does that say? Well,
going into today, the bulls had a free pass, because if it was a really bad number, everyone would say, oh, it's the weather. And if it's a better than expected number, which we got, well, they would celebrate that. The market is taking the belief that things are getting better. And yes, maybe the pace of that improvement is slow. At least the trajectory is right. And they're confident that even if we get higher interest rates, even with 2011 we get higher taxes, that business will overcome, the global economy will overcome. Therefore, you want to be in equities. That's the thought process.
Okay, but Peter, how is the Fed looking at the February jobs report? Will it remove the low rates needed for an extended period language we've seen for the last couple of meetings?
No. You can guarantee that the Fed is going to be so far behind the curve in raising interest rates that it's going to take a much lower unemployment rate and 200,000 plus jobs per month for a long time for them to raise rates. It's their asymmetric policy of slashing rates to nothing when things get bad and not touching them for a while as things improve. So in my opinion, this changes not one iota what the Fed is going to do in their pace of removing stimulus.
What about what Congress is going to do? Does the jobs report suggest we still need a jobs bill from the government?
Well, we keep getting them, and they are only going to have a short-term impact because none of this really cuts the cost of doing business in this country, which is what we need to do in order to create sustainable job growth. Right. We want to see the next Microsoft, not weatherizing somebody's house in generating long-term economic growth for this country.
Peter, might I ask, we have about 30 seconds left. Any surprises in the State of the Nation speech by the Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao?
no major surprises. I think he acknowledged the difficult path they now have because of wanting to somewhat reverse the enormous amount of stimulus that they injected in the economy, slow down some of the loan growth because it showed up in a property bubble there, but at the same time trying to generate 8% plus GDP growth to absorb the unemployed at the same time as keeping inflation under control. So he's trying to thread a needle here. Either way, growth will continue in China. The trajectory is higher. It could be a little lumpy, but it is going to be a bright spot in this global recovery.
Peter Boockvar, Miller Tabak equity strategist, joining us. Peter, as always,
thanks for having me.
Good to have you on. Thank you. With